Imagine you really like the United States of America because of TV series and other reasons. You want to move there. Statistics can help you to make a safer decision on where to move, but you don't have only to evaluate safety but also the cost of house ownership. For this video I got inspired by a reel, possibly a joke, but unfortunately I don't think so, that showed how whiter states look safer. In order to perform this analysis to drive a more conscious decision, I took the data from Wikipedia. Going into details, I used the import HTML of the URL of Wikipedia that contains the table, and I specified to the formula I want the table, in which position, and also this other setting. Then I selected the column of interest using the query function that is generally used when you want to interrogate a database. This score that has the limit of having 12 years of delay, and this is the first limit of this study, will become our objective variable. Then I collected the amount of white people with the same formula. I just changed the names of the columns because the table had a different format. I did the same for equality, later you will understand why, and here you can notice that we have a different unit of measure because the Gini coefficient is a measure for equality, goes from 0 to 1, where 0 means most equal. Let me go back because I forgot. Those countries are ordered by the safest country. I know it looks not intuitive, but here a lower score means higher safety. You can double check it, of course, on the source I specified here. Then after equality, I collected the data of the total taxes burden for each state, and unfortunately Wikipedia didn't have the data in a tidy way, so I relied on this source, but I could have used also this one that is even more tidy. And the reason of the choice of this variable will arrive later. Then I collected the data for poverty, same methodology, fortunately with Wikipedia, then for black people, and then for the incarceration rate. I created a dataset for all those variables, and if we do a correlation between the safety and the percentage of white people, we have a very high correlation, negative. That means the higher the white people, the less the score. And I remind you, a low score means more safety. This correlation is highly significant, but if one stops here, this video becomes politics, and that means lying. Why? Because as I specified also in other videos, you have to create more clean correlations, because this correlation can contain the effect of also the other variables. And in order to do so, we can't use an easy statistical interface for statistics like JASP, that I often use, but unfortunately we have to code, and so I have to show you a more raw user interface. Here we are on POSIT. I loaded the data of the spreadsheet, I cleaned it a bit, and as first check I did an histogram of our target variable. When you want to do correlations or you want to understand what drives this variable, in order to explain it, the first check is to see if it has a normal distribution. In this case it is a yes, but it is a very unusual normal distribution. Then I did a correlation chart for all the variables. Here you notice the correlation that I showed you also here, but as you can notice there is a variable that has a higher correlation, that is the incarceration rate. As I said in other videos, when we have a correlation higher than 0.75, in my opinion we have to remove it because we are very near to the collinearity, and that is a situation that gives problems. Also because if you think about it, it is likely that they built the index of safety using crimes. So it is reasonable to exclude this variable when we perform the next analysis. And the next analysis is to clean those correlations with partial correlations. Here I show you just the p-value that indicates significativity, and the significativity is a measure of signal. If we don't have it, we have noise. For example, in many videos, here you have the significant variables, so a signal, but when doing cleaned correlation, that signal disappeared. In this case, we see that the Gini coefficient disappears as significant because this is higher than 0.05, and the poverty rate is at the limit. So potentially we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables to use in our model that will answer to the question: black people make American states unsafer. Let's go to see it. First of all, in this model, you notice that we have Gini coefficient as not significant, also because here we had it not significant. So this is the first hint for the next model, to remove this variable. In this case, we explain 71% of the variability of our safety. That is much. But let's see the second model without the Gini coefficient variable. That is a measure for inequality. In this case, you see that we lose 0.5% of explainability. We have all significant variables, and now we can answer the question. If we look at the estimate, you see positive values and negative values. A negative values mean this: for each point increase of white people, our index decreases by 1.5. I remind you for the third time that the lower the index, the higher the safety. Here we notice that black people have a positive coefficient. That means, yes, they make states less safe, but look at the number. We have 2.3 against 1.5, let's say 6 for white people. If we look at the other two variables, they are much higher, especially the effective tax rate. And this is an evergreen. Poverty rate increases, incarceration, and of course this make states, not just in the USA, less safe. You saw it also here. It was the second highest correlation. So, yes, with this analysis built with a very simple model, we see that black people make states unsafer, but there are worse variables that have nothing to do with ethnicity, that is poverty. And especially from this variable, we notice something, that if we want safer communities, we have to have a public insurance, that is taxes. So if we have higher total tax burden, we have more safety at the price, let's call it freedom. If you want more freedom, that means less taxes, you pay with more unsafety, no matter how, private surveillance or more private insurance. So you can understand this model as a suggestion to have higher total taxes as a public insurance for public safety. In economics, but not only, there are many kinds of dilemmas, trilemmas, and so on. You can't have a buttichina, a mugliere embriaca, as we say in Italy. That means you can't have the drunk wife and a full barrel of wine. I understand that this video contained a controversy from the beginning, but now you have two controversies, especially for Americans who watch this video. But I showed you how statistics can help you to make wiser decisions that in this case deals with safety. And with the Staticalmo, I help companies making wiser decisions that have an impact to their costs or turnover, thanks to various domains of statistics. If you want to increase the well-being of your company, thanks to an analysis done like that, you can contact me on www.staticalmo.com in the contact page, and you can book a call where we can discuss your case. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Bye, and see you the next time.